All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a huge, maybe even a little scary question. One that comes from a really provocative talk by Dr. Matt Welsh. And that question is, are we witnessing the end of programming as we know it? So, he kicks things off with this bombshell of a quote. And you might think, okay, he's just trying to get a reaction. But no, he's actually pointing to a really deep-seated issue, a problem that's been nagging the world of software for a very long time.
So, a statement that bold, where does it come from? Well, to really get it, we've got to take a step back and look at the history of programming, because according to him, it's basically a 50-year story of trying and failing to fix one single fundamental flaw.
So here it is, Section 1, Programming's 50-Year Problem. Yeah, Dr. Welsh's whole argument is that for more than half a century, we've essentially been spinning our wheels, trying to solve a problem with tools that are just not right for the job. So what is that mismatch? What's the core issue? Well, according to Welsh, it all boils down to this one assumption, that programs have to be written, maintained, and understood by people. And here's the kicker. He says, pretty bluntly, that we're actually terrible at all three of those things. And look, this is not some new revelation. He lays out this whole history of us trying to solve this. You've got Fortran back in '57, the first real attempt at a high-level language. Then BASIC comes along, trying to make it all easier. We even got super complex stuff like APL, which needed its own keyboard. And fast forward to today with a modern, safe language like Rust. Every single one of these was a swing at making code easier for humans to deal with. But did it work? Well, Welsh's answer is a resounding nope. And he uses this example to prove it. This is Conway's game of life, a pretty simple concept, but written in Rust, one of the most advanced languages we have today. And he just looks at it and says, I don't make heads or tails of this. And you can see why. It's a wall of symbols. His point is crystal clear. Even after all this time, we're still writing code that we can't easily understand. Okay, so if the old way, the way we've been doing it for 50 years, is fundamentally broken, what's next? What's the alternative? This is where his argument really pivots, and he shows us something completely different. And this is it. He says, this is how I write code today. And it's just a sentence, a simple prompt in plain English, asking GPT-4 to summarize a podcast. Think about that. This isn't a program full of curly braces and semicolons. It's an instruction. It's a conversation. And that right there is the paradigm shift. The old way, you had to tell the computer exactly how to do something, every single tiny step, in a super rigid language it could understand. The new way, you just state your intent. You tell the model what you want. The how is its problem, not yours. All right, so this new way of doing things isn't just a neat trick. It's not just a different workflow. Dr. Welsh argues that this shift completely blows up the economics of how we build software. He talks about tools like GitHub Copilot and says, if I don't have Copilot, I absolutely feel naked. And that's because it's more than just a fancy autocomplete. It's about staying in that creative flow, that zone, making developers way, way more productive. And this is where the economics get, well, insane. He breaks down the math, and it's brutally simple. A good human developer might cost a company, say, $1,200 a day. The cost to get a GPT-3 model to generate the same amount of code? 12 cents. Yeah, you heard that right. That's a 10,000x difference. 10,000. And his point is, when you see a technological shift with that kind of economic power behind it, you can't just ignore it. It's not a question of if it changes the industry, but how and how fast. So let's follow this logic. If an AI can do the work for 1/10,000th of the cost, what does that mean for the future? What does computing itself even become? And this is where his vision gets really, really mind-bending, because his claim is you won't even need programs anymore. At all. He's not just saying AI will write the code for us. He's saying we'll bypass the code step completely. You just tell the language model what you want, and it computes the result directly. No file, no compile, no run. Just an answer. He gives this idea a name, the natural language computer. And the architecture looks something like this. You give it a task in plain English, the LLM figures out what it needs to do, maybe call an API, maybe query a database. It does it,
and then it generates the final result for you. So programming isn't about writing lines of code anymore. It's about teaching the model new skills it can use. And this leads to his new catchphrase for this era of computing. We all know the old one from Sun Microsystems, the network is the computer. Welsh's new version, the model is the computer. The LLM itself becomes the core engine of computation. So that was the vision. And it's a powerful one. But what's happened since he gave this talk? How is this playing out in the real world? Well, the thing is, AI moves at an absolutely breakneck pace. And you really have to keep this in mind. This talk was given over a year ago. In the world of AI, that's practically a decade. It's an eternity. And what seemed like a bold prediction back then, it's literally happening right now. That natural language computer that he described, we now have a name for that. It's the core concept behind this exploding field called agentic AI. We're talking about systems that can take a big, complex goal from you and then autonomously reason, plan, and use tools to get it done. It's exactly what he was talking about. Okay, so let's quickly recap the whole journey. We started with the basic problem: programming is really hard for us humans. Then LLMs came along and flipped the script. We moved from giving detailed instructions to just stating our intent. The economic force behind this is massive, a potential 10,000x factor. And that future he painted, where the model is the computer, it's not the future anymore. It's the present, and we call it agentic AI. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If coding becomes teaching, if we stop writing rigid instructions and start having conversations with our computers, what does that make us? What's the next great human skill we're all going to need to master in this new world? Look, Dr. Welsh's talk laid out the blueprint, but this whole area is moving faster than anyone imagined. So if this has piqued your curiosity and you want to see what's happening on the absolute bleeding edge of what's now called agentic AI or agentic coding, you should really check out the Vibe Doc channel on YouTube. They do some amazing deep dives. Seriously, subscribe, and if you have questions, drop them a comment. And that's our explainer for today. Thanks for tuning in.